Hi, welcome to Project Geospatial. My name is Adam Simmons. We're gonna do another episode. it's the so it's August 17th, and I promised a better schedule what we're going to go over. And so as usual, going to keep to a schedule of Fridays 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube to do these live episodes. I'm a couple minutes late here in this one. Just getting some last minute things ready. So here's the schedule, and I'm going to let's see here. We're going to so last week we went over wildfire data or general fire data. Somebody tried to correct me earlier that hey, these aren't all wildfires. That's correct. Um, they are you can be categorized as arsonist fires and multiple other things. But in general, I use the term wildfire pretty loosely. The fire data is still treated the same in monitoring these events. This week we're actually going to go over energy data. So I'm gonna, there's a lot of different places to get energy data, from refinery data, power plant data. I'm gonna touch on a couple of these things. There's a lot of other places you can get this stuff, but I'm gonna touch on a couple of different things. Next week we're gonna talk about airport data. About three or four different places you can get open source airport data. And then the following week after that, it's going to be USGS earthquake data and the different things you can do with that. And then we're going to showcase some of the different visualization examples we've seen over the years, how people have visualized earthquake data in unique ways. All right, so let's get on the topic of energy. And I'm going to go over the three or four different sources that you can see energy data. First of all is some worldwide energy data, and that's going to be on Anapedia. We're going to touch on Anapedia. Enerdata is an independent research and consulting firm. They're their own business. European, out of I can't remember the top of my head. Maybe Norwegian. Um, Anyway, independent research and no, I'm sorry, Enerdata I believe is French. Anyway, we'll find it. Independent research consultant for focus on now some all global energy markets, and that encompasses a lot of different things. Um, and then we're going to talk about U.S. focus energy data, where to get that, and there's a couple different places for that too. So, while I am loading that up, and first one is going to be Enerdata. So here's the Anapedia database. Sorry, Anapedia is it is a wiki. There's a lot of different. This website's very unique. I've used it for a couple years, but you do have to worry about um, uh, the people who pulled this together. A lot of the resources have been scraped from multiple different databases. They do a pretty decent job. You can browse the fuel sources and power outputs of 50,000 power plants worldwide. Now, once again, it's give or take whether these power plants still exist, and if they are still there, you're going to have to validate the information. But it's a great baseline to work off if you're looking for some general information related to power plants. They also have some other stuff too. Natural gas overview, different paths, worldwide flows of natural gas. Interesting other data sets in here, electrical storage, oil. But power plants specifically, and it's a pretty wide, extensive database. So I'm not going to touch on everything regarding this. This is something that you all can take a look at. The website's going to be in the YouTube notes at the end of the episode. You can download the KML, and let's go ahead and do that real quick. Oh, that one does not work. So I will admit, in re-exploring this website for the episode, they have a lot of dead links, and I will try to update the show notes with what does work and what does not. Even their configurable map here. Let's see if I can bring that up. Their map is actually pretty interesting. It's supposed to show at a certain level all the power plants in a certain below a certain zoom level, and it used to do this quite well. But something's going on in the last couple months where it doesn't seem to be this thing's not as updated as it used to be. I supposedly could download all the things I'm looking at within the current viewport for this area as well. But once again, for some reason, this site does not seem to be working right now. So when it, like I said, when it does, it's actually a pretty robust site. I like it. I've used it quite well. I've downloaded the entire CSV before. And maybe I'll post the one I grabbed from a couple years ago. You guys can take a look at that. I uploaded all the data into Fusion tables. So a single data set. And it does denote what the different sources are, and you guys can check that out too. So that's Anapedia. I highly recommend it as a source if you can get this stuff working. So while that's doing that, we will go to the next one and briefly talk about Enerdata. So Enerdata is when I was browsing around doing some business development for a company and looking what's available out there. And so this is a unique service, and they do offer a worldwide perspective of an LNG database. This is a liquid natural gas database of all the containers and facilities that are worldwide. They also have a world refinery database, which is great. Energy is not just about power plants; it's also about the different sources of fuel that can power a power plant, between coal, refinery from after the oil and natural gas is mined, into actually refining it to make it usable for as a fuel source or other purposes. So they do have a lot of different databases you can pull from. American Refineries database, Asian Refineries database, and this is a data set you do have to purchase. And this is, I'd say it's definitely worth it. I wouldn't say it's too expensive. I would say this was a couple $1,000, as I recall, when we were looking into it originally. But it's worth reaching out to them, see how much they're charging for the data, and getting a perspective of what the data is today. From a power plant perspective, they have a power plant tracker, and it's worth understanding what power plants they track, whether it be European, U.S., etc., because it's not just about getting a static facility database. But you can also get an active update of the status of the power plant, the capacity, production, CO2 emissions of specific power plants. So that's a very cool data set to plug into a map from a near real-time perspective. They have their own interface for it, but what I'm always interested in is the data download, and that's something you guys can talk to them directly if you want to reach out to them for. So my next data source for energy is going to be more U.S. focused. So we do have the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the EIA, and this is the U.S. Energy Mapping System. You can see a map of all these different items here. Between coal power plants, nuclear, whatever, petroleum within the United States, as well as the different network between pipelines. Everything connecting all this stuff together. A lot of different layers here, and a lot of things to figure out what the value of the information is. So now this is just the map data. Where do you get the actual data itself? Well, it's a little bit more complicated looking through the EIA. You could email them asking them questions, or you can specifically dive into, see, here we go, sources and uses. So let's say if I want to go into how about coal? Let's dive into coal here. Coal issues and trends, they have specific pages that talk about the individual data within the United States, focused on the coal industry. Now, pulling the actual data out specifically, once again, I did end it today. It can be a bit of a challenge. You can browse the cold data browser, the interactive query tool with charting and mapping. or you can go into the different specific levels of information here. And once again, grabbing the actual data itself seems to be a it seems to be a challenge out of this website. And I think when I looked at this before, it was a lot easier. You can download it as a table in the CSV, but you can see here. I mean, they'll have the plant name. I'm not sure about the address. I mean, we can pull a CSV file and take a look at it real quick. But so I like to think of this as a complement to what else is out there as well. The EIA does have a API, by the way. Let's see if I can pull that out real quick as well at the top. Here we go. Data, tools, apps, and maps. As well as they have a open data for. So the open data is kind of interesting because they do have Excel plugins and Google Sheets plugins that you can use to quickly search your data sets. But if I use this, pull this up directly, you can see the different options they have available, including at the available API browser tool for those who are developer savvy, Google Sheets add-on, which this doesn't work because I think the EIA needs to revalidate their application, their Google Sheets application with Google. Because I just tried that earlier. Bulk download facility. This is in a strange, not the zip file, but there's a weird file format, I believe. Okay, you have to use GeoJSON to extract the data set. Anyway, so the EIA is another information if you're looking for more data-driven tools, but trying to actually find out the facility information and grab the facility is a little bit tougher, and I'm still trying to. Once I find that link, I'll post it as well. But I don't have to rely just on this website. There's other agencies that track U.S. energy. One of them, let's see if I can find that one real quick, is the next one on the list, actually, the FedMaps Open Data Source Catalog, which is turned into a more of a catalog for all, a lot of data in government agencies trying to publish it publicly. So let's check out that. So I found a link directly to all the power plants in the United States. And this one you can see here has been updated. If I go to details, 2 days ago. So this is updated consistently. You do have different data set downloads, including a KML, I have a shapefile, and a spreadsheet. And they do have APIs you can actually pull this from as GeoJSON GeoService. So Open Data Catalog has been a great tool to monitor. That has evolved over time. They didn't have all these options for open data sets when this Open Data Catalog first went online. They were still getting online. They're still trying to make the appropriate. Initially it was just get the data into Open Data Catalog with the initial option of downloading in the original format, like a CSV or a shapefile. But now they're opening the world up to other options as well. So I like monitoring Open Data Catalog and seeing what other data sets that exist that you can grab just to play around with. And here's all the power plants in the United States once again. If we want to download that as a KML just to check it out, we can do that. And this is going to be my last data set to show you guys, by the way. I said we're just going to review some of the energy data that's available. And this one just downloaded in a KML. And I'm going to bring up Google Earth real quick. Okay, so here's Google Earth. And this is all the power plants in the United States in the single KML. I don't like how it's all organized, but we can... Yeah, okay, so it's one giant extract. Not a fan of this at all. So if I were to change this, I would download the CSV, create filters and folders based off of what type of power plant they are, what kind of fuel source, etc., and redo this. Because this, as a raw KML, this is junk in my opinion. I can't really filter anything out like this. Okay, so just want to see what that looked like. But the CSV is pretty legit. So if we go back and go to a table view, we get an idea what the what the table looks like. So we do have the exact address as well as the power source used, hydroelectric, coal, nuclear, yeah, here we go, natural gas. So technical description, source description, so would have the energy output for each of the power plants as well. So like I said, I think this is a really good start if you just want to mess with US based data. And that's why I wanted to show the Anapedia and Enter data, because finding international power plant data can be a little bit hard. You have to purchase it from another company, or you have to play around with open data that might not be as accurate or validated for a lot of locations that exist. And it's a lot of work to revalidate data that encompasses thousands and thousands of points. Um, so hopefully you enjoyed some of those tidbits. If you have a suggestion of a good energy data source, worldwide or US based or specific country based, please go ahead and post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you what those options are. You can share with everybody, and maybe we'll dive into some of the feedback in a future episode and what those are. Thanks for joining me on Project Geospatial, looking at energy. I hope to see you next week when we cover, I believe it was airports? Just check my schedule. Yes, airport data. See you next time.